Hi, I'm Jeremy Hess with Akeyless, and in this video, we're going to start our journey into managing Kubernetes secrets by first showing how to authenticate a pod to Akeyless without ever sharing any private information with our SaaS. Kubernetes authentication is valuable for two main reasons. First, it's native and easier to work with for Kubernetes workloads. Second of all, it enables much more specific and drill down policy and segregation and permissions for namespaces, pods, and more, which is not available on native Kubernetes. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, so getting started, go ahead and head to the docs as well to see all the information here. And the first thing to keep in mind is that this auth method is using the Kubernetes JOT token to authenticate, but the JOT is never actually shared with Akeyless or any other third party. It's only shared within the gateway, and that's controlled and operated by the customer or the user. So it is considered a trusted machine, and it's therefore okay and safe. So a couple of prerequisites: you need to have your gateway with network access to your Kubernetes cluster, and you need to have Kubernetes version 1.21 or higher. And so what we first are going to do is create a service account for the gateway. And if you have Rancher, there's some more advanced information, which you can see here as well. And so let's go ahead and get started with that. The first thing we need to go ahead and do is create the service account, and we're going to use this file to do it. So all you need to do is simply copy the file, head to your terminal, paste it in, hit enter, and then we're going to do kubectl apply. And we'll see that our service account was created and the cluster role binding was also created. Great. Now that we have that, for version 1.23 or lower, you use these commands, but for version 1.24 or higher, Kubernetes, you're going to want to use these commands. So I'm going to go ahead and create the service account secret first by doing another similar copy and paste and creating and then kubectl apply to the token reviewer. And we see that the token reviewer token was created. And the next thing we're going to do is get the JOT token and the Kubernetes cluster CA certificate and save those as environment variables. So let's go ahead and grab that one there. Great. And I'm going to grab the certificate here. Great. And to just check one of them, you can do echo SA JOT token, for example. And there you see the token. So we know that it saves those two variables for later, which we're going to use in a command coming up. The next thing we're going to do is create the Kubernetes auth method within our console. So you can simply click on that command, and once it's created, it's going to create an auth method called myk8auth method, which is bound segregation, right? So bound mypod1 and mypod2, and it's bound to the namespace, my namespace A. And here we have the access key and private key, which you need to save for later, and you should delete them when you're done. We'll go ahead and save access ID here, and we're going to save private key. And these are environment variables which we're going to use later. Okay, so we have those. Apologies there. Okay, great. And now we have those saved and ready to go. And continuing creating the Kubernetes gateway auth config. So the first thing we need to do is grab this, and in a new tab, what we're going to go ahead and do is open that tab up, paste in, and it's going to start the server, so we can go ahead and extract the Kubernetes issuer. You have to have JQ installed as well. Not in here, we're going to do that in here. Paste that in. Okay, and we have that saved as well in our environment variable. Okay, the next thing we're going to go ahead and do is actually create the auth config within the gateway, and that's by running this for Kubernetes native, or for Rancher, you can do that command. And so what we'll go ahead and do is grab that command, which I have already set up for myself. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and paste that in. And with all the information that we gave it, you see all the different environment variables. So I have here k8conf successfully created within the gateway. So if we go ahead to the gateway, click on Kubernetes auth, we will see our Kubernetes k8conf created there. So once that's done, the next thing we need to do is actually authenticate a service account in the Kubernetes cluster, authenticate from a service account in the Kubernetes cluster. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and authenticate from a service account in the cluster, and we're going to show how this is done in a manual manner. Normally, it would be done from a machine-to-machine perspective, but let's go ahead and start by creating our namespace within our Kubernetes cluster. Okay, we got our namespace created, and we're going to create the pod and Nginx image running on the pod. Okay, that one's done. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to exec into that pod and run the following commands. Okay, once that's up and running, we can run install the CLI, the Akeyless CLI, chmod. Great. And now we're going to run this command to actually authenticate using the Kubernetes auth method with the following parameters. And I have that, of course, saved as well. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that command now. Okay. Here we have Akeyless auth starting with our access ID that we created in the console, and it's a Kate's type of access type. And we have our gateway URL as well as the auth config name, which we created inside of the gateway. And the first time it might just do this, so just hit enter, hit no and no, and then run the same command again. And there we see our authentication was successful, and we have our token. So that is how you do Kubernetes authentication, and we'll see you in the next video.